Let's get a little weird. Let's get a little odd. Those sounds you like to hear. We got it going on. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Oddcast, where we talk about people who are turning their passion into profession and subsequently passion into paychecks. We have a very special guest today. We are in-house at Protector Brewing. We're with Sean, the founder, head brewer, owner, operator, whatever you like, of Protector Brewing. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the Oddcast. So I guess, we wanted to start off, saying a little bit about Protector Brewery, just on the kind of 20,000 foot level. Veteran owns, veteran operated, which is awesome, and as well as the first ever fully organic beer company in San Diego and USDA approved. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was an arduous but worthwhile endeavor, I think.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And we have some brews here actually that we're going to try today, so I'm pretty excited about getting down to those. I mean, should we start off with that?
Absolutely. I mean, start this podcast off right?
I totally agree. So what do we have here today?
Okay. We'll go from start to finish right here. We've got our Mosaic Smash. It's a hazy pale ale. And we actually want to anchor with that because you don't see hazy pale ales these days too much. It's a new style from the Brewers Association for the Beer Judge program that was just recently added. And so you have all these hazy IPAs, but that's a specifically hazy pale ale.
Okay, so and that's going to just mean like a little bit lower ABV, a little less. Would that be a little less hoppy than a?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. From a unique perspective, our Juice IPA, which is kind of our flagship beer. So our Mosaic Smash Hazy Pale Ale, it's a single malt, single hop, and the hop that we use in this one is Mosaic, and so it's nice and juicy, tropical fruit. A little bit of blueberry notes to it, and then the yeast strain is the same as the Juice IPA, which the yeast is called A38 Juice from Imperial Organic. And you're right, yeah, the ABV is just a little bit lower, the bitterness is a little bit lower, and it's still hazed up a little bit, but for a pale ale, we just want to go with that one.
Yeah, so
let's do it, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Why not? Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah. I totally see lighter, but still has that hazy kind of thickness to it. It's weird.
Yeah. What's cool is this yeast strain, it's unique. It pumps out all these esters, phenols of like orange and tropical fruit. And what's great about it is we hop this at specific stages, so it kind of hazes it up a bit. And just a single clean 2-row malt profile, just to keep it like nice and crisp, and the yeast actually attenuate pretty well, so it's just dry, and the water profile leans towards like a typical pale ale. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I think it's a super complex beer actually. I mean, and I think that can be shown in the fact that you folks are the only ones who are doing it right now.
I think this style of beer, because hazies have really blown up. There's actually hazy double IPAs, hazy pale ales, hazy IPAs, and people just like the juiciness, I think.
Yeah. I've even seen them starting to make they've done sour IPAs, but when are they going to do sour hazy IPAs?
Oh my God. Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Honestly, it's not, at Protector here, and I've said this before, but because we're organic, we have to get all of our malts and all of our yeast, they're grown organically, so they're going to impart a different taste. The yeast even has to be certified organic, which is surprising, but we don't get any of our yeast from White Labs here like most San Diego breweries. We actually have to get it up in Portland, but I love those yeast profiles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the White Lab stuff is great, but like you said, the USDA stuff probably is just jumping through hoops of fire.
Oh, my God, yeah. And there was my God. Yeah, I make this analogy. When I was in the military, getting a security clearance was easy compared to getting an organic certification because you just have a third party that's under the USDA. So what they'll do is they'll come in and just make sure that every ingredient that goes into the beer is grown or sourced organically, and that any processing aid is actually natural and not synthetic. So the 30-second answer for what does organic mean? It's 100% natural, nothing synthetic, and we can't hide anything that we put into that because we're audited by a third party.
Wow.
Most importantly, in theory, there was a big article that came out here, and every brewery in San Diego is awesome. And most people ask us, why organic? Why organic? Why organic? And because it's alcohol, we can't market any health benefits of organic alcohol, which is why most people buy organic products in the first place. But when all these malts, grains, hops, when they're grown conventionally, they'll use chemical pesticides that are neurological agents to kill bugs. Uh-huh. And then there was a big article that came out just recently that there's measurable levels of that pesticide in a finished product of beer. And they called out specific breweries throughout the United States. And we're in the process of getting ours tested to make sure that we don't have any of that chemical pesticide in there.
Wow.
And once we get that certificate as well, it'll just be more, we know, but we just want to communicate to people what makes organic different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an interesting question I want to ask you based off of that.
Uh-huh.
How much of that stuff then do you feel that you want to take care of hands-on, and as a result of that, how much are you always grinding, whether it's brewing, whether it's getting USDA stuff? Because I feel like, there's so many hoops that you've had to jump through that you don't want to miss it based on, assigning it to someone else and then they didn't do it the way that you saw fit or something, or the clearance didn't get through. I mean, how much of that just keeps you up at night on a personal level?
God, when we first opened in 2017, it kept me up a lot. And especially doing experimental beers and seeing how, in theory, you would add a Cascade hop and then you'd add this yeast strain, then you'd add this malt profile, and it should add up to an end product. And the art of brewing it's pretty awesome, because sometimes when you add those up together, sometimes the sum of those parts is usually different than what you would think, and that's where the art of brewing comes in. So we've done a ton of experiments, and regardless of being organic, I mean, God, that has kept me up at night, in addition to starting a brand new company. But we've been pretty lucky because we just listen to what customers say. If they say, hey, this beer, this is good, or this one's not so good, we're really quick to take it off tap. And we've started to center on some really core beers now. Yeah,
like for example, one that we're about to, the juice, obviously, and is this going to be a core eventually? The Mosaic Smash.
Absolutely. We've gone out in town because we're starting to scale up our operations to do a lot more distribution out in San Diego. And every time we do a tasting with a restaurant or a bar out in San Diego, most of them actually love the Mosaic Smash because it's a different beer. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit more refreshing than like an IPA, but it still has all those qualities of like a hazy beer.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to keep it.
Yeah. It's really nice. It's like, it's very sessionable too. I mean,
yep.
So it's very good for restaurants, gastro pubs, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I know that, people might be watching and looking at the color on this one and thinking, is that beer? It is beer. This is that's the Beer Zerker Dragon Fruit Ale.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think as most people would assume, when they come to Protector Brewery, it's a little bit more on the aggressive side for an organic brewery, mm-hmm. and that's almost by definition because we're a veteran-owned company. It's ingrained within us that I would say that aggressive style of branding.
Yeah.
And that flows into our names like Berserker Dragon Fruit Ale. But I think that everybody's a protector in their own right, and we want to make sure that we don't go too far left or right of what is doing right by us, and that flows into our branding. So the Berserker Dragon Fruit Ale is like, let's have an aggressive name because it looks red. It's a bright red colored beer, and it's about 5% ABV, but we'll take fresh organic dragon fruit and then fresh organic cherries and then blend those together. And the malt profile and the yeast profile is very similar to the Mosaic Smash.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the hop profile, though, is we just use Cascade. But these fruits here, we just wanted to have them like subtle, not overbearing. But let's have a taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me know what you think.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. So the nose on it is a little bit more like fruity and tropical. And then the taste is, well, you tell me. What do you think?
I mean, you said it right before. It does have those like subtle rosé, but carbonated. You really get the cherries on the end of it.
Yep.
Gosh, the cherries are wonderful. It almost makes a raspberry-ish kind of taste when you combine it with the dragon fruit for whatever reason.
Yeah. And then the yeast profile that we use in here, again, is I think that A38 juice has become more of a staple. Most of our beers are going to use that yeast strain here at Protector.
Yeah.
Because it just gives this awesome tropical aroma and tropical taste.
Yeah, that's so unique. That's, sorry, the A38 yeast?
Yeah, that's the nomenclature
Yeah.
from the company that we get all of our yeast from up in Oregon.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's like, you know, getting paint swashes to a whole nother level, you know?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I've seen a lot more movements towards, you know, kind of different styles of beers. And I think, you know, that goes to your earlier point of, you know, it's not only the USDA stuff that keeps you up at night, it's the testing and kind of creating something new while sticking to the brand. I mean, because there's always that catch-22 of, you know, going too far out of the way, you lose your brand identity, but then you also want to always expand and evolve. So it's an interesting dichotomy to strike. And, you know, it's cool that you've done such a good job in doing that.
I appreciate that. And it hasn't come without its price. I mean, there's been beers that they just didn't, you know, we put them on tap and there was just something off on them. But we're not afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But when we find something, we kind of center on that and we say, okay, there's something to this beer. And this is, I think, batch 4 for the Berserker Dragon Fruit Ale. Yeah, and every time we do it, I just learn something different. And if there's something something that's directly applicable from being in the military, there's a lot of attention to detail because you have to.
Yep.
There's a lot of dangerous things that you do in the military. So they really train you to hyper-focus on details. And you have to look at yourself in the mirror. I think brewing is mostly attention to detail, discipline, measuring, and seeing what kind of outcomes you have by shifting different variables here and there. And I'm really happy to say this, that we just didn't quit. We would put beer on tap, we would try, we would see, and then if there was something off about it, I would go back and really audit my process and say, oh, yep, I had a failure point there, I had a failure point there, fix that. Every single brew day, there's about 5 new things that I update or just make better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's always growing, always keeping an open mind, always learning to the new process or new.
Oh my God, yeah. It's some people say like, hey, Sean, are you the brewmaster here at Protector? And I say, well, I brew the beer. I'm the head brewer, but I think that becoming a master, in my opinion, it's going to take me a little while.
Yeah.
And it's the constant pursuit of excellence that we're always striving for here at Protector.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, the veteran background, I think, plays into the fact that you've probably, you know, achieved a certain amount of, you know, things that maybe other places weren't able to achieve in the same amount of time because your attention to detail and your quickness in response and your quickness in kind of, you know, oh, this happens, well, we can do this to mitigate that, or we can do this to boost that for the next time around.
Absolutely. And our focus, you know, we make organic beer here, and we want to make sure that, I mean, we have a limited variety of malts and a limited variety of hops and a limited variety of yeast that we have at our disposal. And what we're trying to do is to combine those ingredients mixed with a very, very pure water profile to make sure that we're pumping out the best product. But our focus is always on the customer, and we always ask them, you know, what do you like about this beer? What do you not like about this beer? And we're just trying to curtail to what their needs are.
Yeah, is that, I mean, you know, this is skipping ahead a little bit, but is that a bit to the name, like Protector, whereas, you know, you're protecting the customer in a certain way in terms of integrity of the product, also integrity to the customer. I mean, every time I've come in here, yes, it feels like awesome, you know, pop and brewery, but it also feels like kind of a community feeling. You'll always, by and large, I'll see someone who I've seen here before when I come in. You know, the brew tenders will recognize me. Yeah, what's up, Mike? You know, everyone's, you know, so awesome here. So I think that plays into that as well.
Absolutely. And the idea behind the name of Protector, we wanted something that everybody is, right? And everybody strives to be. And I think everybody in their own right is a protector of something, whether it's an ideology, whether it's physical, or whatever. But we want to make sure people vote with their dollars, right? And so ideas and businesses, when you start them, it's only so long that people like friends and family will come to your brewery or buy your product or your service. But then after that, the market doesn't really care. I mean, people, people are like, that's why our focus is always on them. And we want to make sure if they come in here, they're voting for sustainability. Every dollar they spend, because we are buying hops from farms that it takes them on average 3 years to go from conventional farming to organic farming. And it's a huge risk on their part, right?
Wow.
And also, I mean, that's hop farmers, that's malt farmers. And
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, so really what you're doing here is, you're trying to pinpoint like what brewery you're choosing, but also we want to make sure that a brand represented the aggressive nature of beer. And Protector is a little bit more on the aggressive side, but beer is a little bit more on the aggressive side if you compare it to other, libations, right?
Yep.
And but at the same time, we want to make some of the best beer in San Diego, and I think it's the constant pursuit of trying to obtain that goal.
Yeah. So that, I mean, well, you've definitely struck that balance in an awesome way. Mm-hmm. And I think, this beer is the perfect example of that, where you kind of have expanded in such a cool way. Kept a lot of the stuff you were doing in the previous one, the single hazy, or the pale ale hazy, excuse me. It's quite a phenomenal beer. So cheers on that. You did a great job with this one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to add to that too. I think that it's always obtainable, and I think our goal is always to try. See what happens. This Berserker Dragon Fruit Ale, before we used pomegranate, and it just didn't give the flavor or the taste. It was a little bit on the more tart side, and that has to go into when we're infusing the fruit into the fermentation process. And we're starting to strike this balance to where we have pictures now. I think about 4 months ago, if you walked into a Protector Brewery, you couldn't see a beer image. Now we actually pour the beer, take a picture, we put it up there, so that way if you walk into Protector Brewery, you actually see exactly what you're going to get. And a lot of people like this type of beer. I'm never going to compare our beer to wine, but if you could compare it, it's almost like drinking a carbonated rosé wine. And a lot of people come into Protector and they say, hey, I like beer, but I don't like IPAs. And we try to dial them in and say, well, there's this one that's a little bit more on the fruity and lighter side. And people have really liked it. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a really good, interesting point if you could compare it to wine. I think even how you said, the farmers that you have to go to are kind of like the people who have the vineyards who have been, it's kind of akin in that similar sense, where it goes almost beyond that, especially, like we keep coming back to with the USDA things. So that's got to be wild.
Yeah. And it's a worthwhile venture. We pay on average for our hops 2 to 3 times what conventional hops are.
Wow.
And our malts, our yeast is actually, Imperial Organic is very comparable in price to White Labs, and they have some really awesome varieties up there that we're going to be experimenting with. And then the malt is a bit on the more expensive side, obviously, too.
Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting that one's kind of caught up to the price down here and one hasn't quite yet.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, like my goal is, I hope that our goal really here is to show people that, hey, you can make awesome beer organically. Mm-hmm. And I hope other people do it too, because if other people do it, everybody wins.
Yeah.
And they could still do their own varieties. They could still do their own thing. They could still have their own brand. But it's our goal of sustainability, because if you look at the way that humanity is living their life, it's a ticking time bomb in a way.
Yeah.
And so we just got to make changes, and those aren't easy, but somebody has to do it. So
yeah, and it's worthwhile for future generations. That's what we also have to look at and never forget. As things sound corny, they usually sound corny because they have a very, very logical truth behind them.
Absolutely. And we're here just to say, like, when people come in and they say, "What does organic mean?" and say, "Do you want the 30-second version or the 3-hour version?" Because we can do both of those, but. Yeah, we're just trying to translate what organic really means.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I guess, the natural progression would be to go on. Is this a hazy we have here?
The juice, my friend.
The juice.
Yeah.
The juice.
Cheers, my friend.
Thank you very kindly.
Yeah, the nose on this is a little bit more on the piney, citrusy side, a little bit earthy side. We combine Simcoe and Chinook in very good ways here. And you just get this awesome nose. And again, it's the same yeast strain as the two previous beers, the Mosaic Smash and the Berserker, but it's a unique taste profile.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think, I know you could say that about a lot of hazies, but there's no better way to describe this than just calling it the juice. I mean,
my God, yeah.
It's just what it is.
You know what I like to call this one? The Gateway IPA, because people come into Protector and say, I don't really like IPAs, and we're like, well, try this one. And the IBUs are very low.
Yeah.
And it's just nice and juicy. It's almost like hoppy orange juice in a way.
I was just going to say it really has that kind of like beer mosa kind of feeling to it without being a beer mosa, which is really kind of awesome. What is the orange, like orangish taste come from? Is that the Simcoe and Mosaic mixing, or?
A little bit. I mean, Simcoe's a little bit more on the tropical side. I mean, there's a technical term in the brewing industry. It has an aroma of, I don't know if I could say this on your show, but cat piss.
No, it's all good. We
It's kind of funny. And it's called catty. And if you use too much of it, your end product starts to taste like or smell like diesel fuel. So we just do a little bit of it, and this is where the art of brewing comes in.
Okay.
We use the juice yeast strain. We use a water profile that has a sulfite to chloride ratio that is, like, say, about 2-to-1. So chloride to sulfate. So it accentuates the malt character. And the malt character of this is a nice combination of a little bit of wheat, a little bit of carapils, a little bit of Munich to give it a little bit of that sweetness, and then a 2-row base. And then, when we add Magnum to bitter that hop, which is a very good clean bittering hop, and then we'll throw in Simcoe, and then we'll throw in Chinook, and then all these ingredients combine together, and there's no orange juice in it, there's no fruit in it, it just all comes together and tastes like hoppy orange juice.
That's so odd. It's special. It's special. That's so much work. I'm sure this one took a lot of trial and error.
This is probably batch 15. Yeah, and we constantly tweak it. And some customers, if anybody out there is listening and they've come to Protector a couple times, sorry about this, but we try to do. We'll tweak. I'll tweak it a little bit because I think because it's based on customer feedback. They're like, it's a little like this. Can you try this? And then I'll try it, and then other customers will say, "What'd you do to it? Like it was better like the last batch." And I think we're starting to get to a final product here. So don't worry if anybody's listening that come to Protector. It's going to normalize here pretty soon.
That's awesome. No, the customer feedback going into the brew seems like such an important thing here. That speaks to it. I mean, the fact that, you're just not going to just do one batch and be like, this is our brewery, we know what we want. Like, that's not what it's about here.
No, not at all. And it's funny because I love all the beers that we put on tap. Of course, they have different flavor profiles and different yeast strains, and the end product is maybe a little bit different than a stereotypical style. And the one beer that we have on tap, but it's not on tap right now, it'll be back on tap in another week and a half, is the Pineapple Grenade Double Hazy IPA.
I saw that on your website.
Yeah, out of all the beers that we have, that one, people just love it. And we'll take this fresh pineapple puree. I'll actually take fresh pineapples, and then we'll puree it up, and then we'll raise the temperature to kind of pasteurize it so we kill as many microorganisms as we can, and then we'll puree it and then freeze it, and so that'll actually lower the microbial count as well, and then we'll infuse it at a specific point to lower the risk of contamination into the brewery. But that beer has every attribute that you would love in a beer. The yeast strain that we use is called A20 Citrus, and it cranks out all these lemon and orange and tropical aromas and the taste profile. And then it's at 8.3 ABV, and people like that. And it also, of course, I like it too, right?
Yeah.
But when you come back to it, it has this just awesome blend of ingredients together, and it's dangerously drinkable for an 8.3% beer.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. That's all the comments on the Instagram were like, this is too drinkable for 8.3.
And I'm actually really excited because we're going to bring that to an event that's coming up here very soon to showcase it.
Yeah, is that the Green Flash one that you were telling me about?
Yeah, and I like that. I like where Green Flash is going with this. They invited all their breweries. I think they're ramping back up their production.
Cool.
I know they had some troubles in the recent past, but they brought all these breweries in and said, hey, just bring one beer. There's no style guideline. There's no ABV guideline. So any brewery is just going to showcase one beer, and they're going to bring this beer here. And if you go to that festival, if you go to just Google Green Flash Brew Down Beer Festival, I think it's mid-April, and it's on a Saturday. And then everybody who goes to that can vote which beer they like the best out of every brewery. There's only one beer per brewery. And then at the end, what's cool is Green Flash is donating $5,000 to the brewery's choice.
Awesome. What's your guys' charity for that?
Ours, we, because we're founded by Navy SEALs. Yep. I'm a Navy SEAL, and the Navy SEAL Foundation is very near and dear to our heart. There's a beer on tap called the Brotherhood Hazy IPA. Every pint that we sell, we donate a portion of our sales to the Navy SEAL Foundation from that beer. That beer is always going to stay on tap. Mm-hmm. So if we bring the Pineapple Grenade and the people's choice is us, $5,000 to go to the Navy SEAL Foundation.
That's incredible. So everyone show up and get to try that pineapple and then vote for it too. That's going to be awesome. The juice is phenomenal. Another staple beer that's, is always going to be here. And then, like you said, this is a perfect, just to summarize, like you said, the 20,000 foot easy way to say it is if you really want to try an IPA, but you're nervous about, or a hazy IPA especially, this is a great way to transition in and really experience kind of what it's all about and how you get those kind of fruity orange, passion fruit, guava flavors without putting a single piece of fruit in there, which is always strikes me as odd. Like when you were explaining it, I was thinking, oh yeah, we put, orange peels at some point for a second and boil it and then take them out and strain them out. I just, as kind of a noob to really any brewing process, I would think you would almost have to, but it's quite phenomenal that you can just attain such an orange and fruity flavor from hops, yeast, obviously, the process of brewing it too, but, and all the above.
I read this when I first got into brewing. I read a book called How to Brew by John Palmer, and any home brewers out there, they definitely have either heard of that book or they may hear about it soon. Yeah. But a general rule of thumb, less is more with beer. If you keep the ingredients pure and simple, oftentimes the end product is a little bit more superior. If you throw in just tons of stuff, they start to conflict and contrast with each other. In our experience,
that's a really good point. Because your beers they're complex in that they've gone through a long process to get where they are.
Yep.
But they're very refined and simple.
Yep.
In that, you've known what you've wanted to do with them, taken customer feedback and kind of combine the two into the end product that we see before us now.
Yeah, and when breweries, there's so many great breweries here in San Diego. They make awesome beer, and I love it because I don't look at competition as putting somebody else down to raise yourself up. I think that there's a lot of breweries out here that are setting an amazing standard. I mean, Burgeon Beer Company, I think they just came out with they got amazing beer, and now they're actually doing every can that they sell, they're planting a tree for every can that they sell.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually might be interviewing them next week. I'll have to ask them about that.
Oh, my God. Tell them that, we appreciate that, and they make amazing beer.
Yeah.
And any brewery knows this. There are just hundreds of variables throughout the brewing process. I mean, when you measure those calcium, magnesium, sodium, chloride, sulfate, alkalinity, pH, everything, when you combine all those things and then your clean in place procedures with the caustic and the acid and then your sanitation procedures, there are so many variables that you can mess up through the brewing process, and why that attention to detail that you provide into your product,
the behind the scenes stuff that the customer doesn't fully see, means something to you.
I would say this: brewing is so arduous and it is so complex. There's so much biology and chemistry that goes into it. The end product, if you can manage to get all those ingredients to melt together into something that's tasty and drinkable, it's almost a miracle in a way.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And then also, I mean, on the back end side of it, then maintain the books, run the business, pay the bills, pay the salaries, get the USDA approved. I know the list goes on from everything I'm thinking. And then, having a young family too, it's a mission.
Oh my God.
And a half.
This is one thing I've learned in the transitioning from the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
It's just there's never ever going to be an easy day, and there's almost therapy in accepting that okay, you have 24 hours in one day, and maybe you sleep for 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe a couple of days you may sleep only 4. but you may get it on the back end. But if you just accept that every day you're going to be putting in work, if a day is supposed to be 18 hours and it turns out to be 15 hours, then that's awesome news.
Yeah.
And it is complex and it's a lot of work, but to do the one thing that you have control over, the only variable that you really have control over is how much work and effort that you put into any venture. And I think, a lot of people that I respect, they always say that the one thing that separates you from others is just the amount of work that you can put into something. And, if you're just not naturally passionate about something, I read a really good book called, and my wife's sister, Megan, she referred this book to me, and it's called Born to Build. And it's by the CEO and then I think another PhD from Gallup Strength Finders. And they said if you lose time doing something, like if hours go by and you're focused on something, you might want to pay attention to that. And it's because you're kind of naturally, intrinsically drawn to that variable or that action or that path. And if you can, kind of follow through with that, the 18-hour days will come naturally. And that, for me, was brewing and also business related. And in the SEAL teams, you have to manage hundreds, if not thousands, of variables for one mission set, and that's why project management is naturally ingrained in SEALs. And so, like entrepreneurship, mostly project management is kind of naturally what we. I guess if we were going to be good at something, it'd probably be that.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I mean, that sounds like you took a lot of benefits from that particular aspect of being a SEAL.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's really that's interesting.
Well, not the least of which is, I think you hit a shift in your head eventually when you're going through SEAL training. It is physically the hardest training in the world, but they routinely say it's 90% mental and 10% physical.
Wow.
And if you look at something like Hell Week, it starts on Sunday, ends on Friday. It's 126 hours straight with 2 2-hour naps, and you would think that seems almost impossible to do, right?
Yeah.
But you hit a point where you're doing so many things that are so physically arduous, and then in your head, a switch goes on, and you realize, wow, how do you find comfort in the things that make you uncomfortable? And then you can easily deal with the adversity of whatever venture you want to go down. And it really just comes down to your attitude.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do in life, it's always going to be arduous and strenuous.
Yeah, but your reaction to that is what's really important.
And you can be happy doing things that are miserable, and that's a very big, valuable lesson I learned in the SEAL teams. And it's a choice. It is simply a choice.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Especially, I would say, like in this day and age, we have, there's, for example, like you say, I appreciate you always saying, oh, I love being a San Diego brewery because I'm sure that there's, stuff that you've learned from other San Diego breweries that you've imparted your wisdom onto San Diego breweries that have come to you.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's kind of like pulling the ladder down for everyone rather than pulling it up once you've made it, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I think that every brewery sees the common adversity, which is big beer.
Yeah.
And I think that's obvious, right? And the more, San Diego has so many great breweries, and these breweries give back to the community in amazing ways.
Yeah.
And if we collaborate together, strength in numbers, we build it together.
Yeah, I think there's something about San Diego that I've noticed definitely with doing the podcast where that's been almost across all different sorts of businesses even, where, like you said, you guys pair with restaurants and such and gastro pubs, which is really awesome. And I think there is a banding together of San Diego where it has the resources of a big city, but a small city community feel, which is really kind of awesome. And San Diego's been good to us in that sense for sure at the Oddcast, I would definitely say.
I would say this too. There's been a lot of businesses out there. Urge Gastropub, for one. We did a tasting with them recently, and we're going to do a Memorial Day event at the end of May with them, and then we're going to try to get the Navy SEAL Foundation out there as well. But that's just one of many examples of partnering with the community, and they give back in so many good ways.
Yeah,
and I've been blown away. Oh my God!
3 local brothers. That's the guys who run Mason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's under the same umbrella.
I love that place.
Yeah, that place is great. Great food, great environment, great atmosphere, great beer. You really can't go wrong there.
Oh my God, yeah.
Speaking of great beer, should we go on to the?
I like it. Yeah, we might as well anchor with the cannonball of this tasting. Cheers, my friend. So what's great is if you smell the nose on this thing.
Oh wow!
And this is our premier stout. We call it Beast Mod, and it's a modification to our original Beast recipe. And this beer right here is 8%, and we use a lot of black malt, chocolate malt, caramel malt, and there's a unique yeast strain in here called the Darkness.
Darkness.
Have a taste, man. Let me know what you think.
It smells delicious.
Mm.
Wow, that's nice. It almost finishes on. You think it's going to be more bitter, but then it cleans up right at the end. That's really odd.
Yeah. Very good for the Oddcast, my friend.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. This is it.
And what's great too is the Spartan helmet here. There's a direct link to this beer. That Spartan helmet, we wanted something that represented us, and for some reason when I look at that image of that Spartan helmet, I always think of strength, and I think everybody's aspiring to that as well. Well, from my perspective, but when we made this thing, one of my other business partners, he would say that this was one of the hardest things we could make at the brewery because we wanted to import a lot of features into it. The back of that thing is made out of real organic black barley, the same that we would order for the Beast. Then, yeah, the Spartan helmet is made out of fake greenery, but that scar on the left side is made out of hops, and then the outline of that is just glowing with lighting. And we wanted something that would be a good staple green piece of Protector. And as a stout, when we talk about Beast Mod, we wanted something that was bold and big, and this beer will always be on tap and always available for distribution because this is probably batch 6 or 7.
Wow.
And I'm really happy about where it's at right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That must be great to get to that point where you're like, I'm closing in if not there.
Exactly. And I think like you have this idea of perfection in your head, and as we got to this beer is it's one of my favorite beers that we've made as far as a stout goes. And then what we're going to do in the future is make a little bit some offshoots of this. So we'll do some vanilla bean and then make it nitro. So we'll do some tests with that as well.
Wow, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Nitro stuff is always interesting.
Yeah, and being 8%, it's extra fun. So
that's a very good point.
Yeah,
that's a very good point. Well, that's what an interesting flight. Like you can really, just to round it up, you could really come here and get a taste of like what not only Protector's all about, what San Diego is all about, what craft brew is all about, what organic brew is all about. Mm-hmm. What veteran brewing is all about. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just this like mix of all these great things that you have going for you, and I think that's led to a lot of your, success and on to continued success. Mm-hmm. So there are a few interesting questions that I wanted to ask, like specifically.
Yeah.
That now that we've done our little mini tasting out there for everyone. So I guess what would be, just for everyone, what was the kind of initial inception or beginning of Protector? I know that's. This
is a good question.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I always like this one because, in a way, it's. I'll just say it because it is what it is. So I was a SEAL for about 11 years, and I did 3 deployments to Iraq. And on that 3rd deployment to Iraq, we were doing these raids at night on these high-value targets in Iraq. And we were sleeping during the day, and it was summertime. It was 120 degrees out, and you can't have alcohol in a combat zone. and I was being a good boy. And by about 3 months into it, we were doing these raids, coming back, and finally we got back at 5 a.m. one day. I just thought to myself, man, I don't even want to get hammered or drunk. I just want a beer.
Yeah,
just kind of wind down. And like most entrepreneurial ideas, I think it's from an unmet need.
Yeah.
And the idea sparked then. I was like, wow, why don't I just brew it? So referencing again that book by John Palmer, How to Brew, had that sent out, read a little bit of that and said, man, I could probably brew something. If I need a beer, why don't I just make it? And then, so the first beer I ever made, I had all the ingredients shipped out. I made it in the sands of Iraq in 2010. And I gotta tell you, just full transparency, the beer didn't taste that good. But for some reason, I fell in love with the process of it because you could create something unique, and it made such a profound impact on people. And being a SEAL was one thing I wanted most, but I didn't want it to be the only thing I ever did. And so at 2010, I decided, okay, I'm going to make this transition out of the military, and I'm going to start a brewery in San Diego. And a few years back, this is kind of funny, about 5 or 6 years ago, as I was finishing my undergrad in business and writing this business plan for Protector Brewery, I went to this seminar, and this really prominent character in San Diego, he owns a really, one of the bigger breweries in San Diego, and he gave this awesome speech about how organic products in his restaurant are very valuable, and they always try to do local and sustainable. And I went up to him at the end, and I was like, hey, I love it. I love the organic aspect. I want to start an organic brewery. And what he said to me was, he said, I just don't know if it can be done. And at that scale that brewery was at, huge. It's obvious that they couldn't do it because the organic hop farms just weren't there yet. Yeah. But I thought, if we could start small, I think we can make this work. And to make even matters worse, in a good way, I transitioned out of the military in 2015, and I went to UCSD and did an MBA at the Hazy School of Management, and that I just wanted to set myself up for as much success as possible starting a company. And right around the same time I was graduating from Hazy, we were going to open up our brewery. We didn't have a solution for organic hops for a good IPA. And then I reflected on what that guy said to me, and he said, just the IPAs, you got to make a good IPA in San Diego, which is so true. And 4 months before we opened Protector Brewery, right at the tail end of our organic certification, I had to scrounge and scrap, and I didn't sleep for probably 36 to 48 hours until I found a solution for organic hops. And we partnered with a few companies out there, and we were able to make it happen.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and what's great too is we're scaling with these organic farms. One of the farms just started in 2017. It's brand new that we get all of our Cascade, Chinook, Zeus, and Centennial from. And it was, when you put that intention out there to the universe, my wife would agree with this. She has a PhD in philosophy. She's a life coach, and and also visualization in the SEAL things is very powerful because you would see something that's unobtainable, right? And you would think that it's impossible. And the one thing you have control over is every moment of every day of your life and just putting conscious action into it. And I can't describe it and I can't measure it, but for some reason these circles close and it happens.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, if you're able to put that 36 or 48 hour no sleep together and just make it happen, then it happens. And then it just goes to sustaining it.
yeah. Like a good buddy of mine, he's actually an investor here at Protector. I went to business school with him. His name's John Walensky, and he told me one thing, and he said he heard it from a trip that he went on. But he said, anybody can start a company, but to scale a company truly takes it takes a lot of work. And I'm really happy to say this, that we were able to start small, but we're going to scale by the end of September to we currently have a 4-barrel brewery, 4-barrel fermenters. We're going to scale that to 15-barrel fermenters, so nearly 4 times.
So that's the scaling. That's summer of 2019?
Yeah, we're going to get our equipment. We're working with an awesome local, a lot of breweries know this company. It's called Premier Stainless.
Okay.
They're awesome. They manufacture equipment all over the world, and so we're working tightly with them, and they're up in Escondido. But we're getting all this awesome equipment that takes a lot of human error out of the brew process because – to be honest, the brewery that we have currently, like we piecemealed it together, and there's a lot of there's small micro inconsistencies because there's not enough automation, and so we knew that, and so we're buying all this equipment, and then the beer is going to jump up in quality after that. I think the beer is, from quality standpoint, it's there, but then when you take human error out of it, it's going to jump up again.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. You guys are whoa, okay, so. Well, we're definitely looking forward to that one. That's gonna be awesome. So, how did the strategic partnership with the Portland? Is that the strategic partnership for the organic farms and stuff?
Yeah. So there's 2 strategic partnerships we've had in Oregon specifically, and really quick, a 30-second tangent. Portland seems to be beating San Diego out for the best beer town in the country. And,
Portland's killing it right now.
Yeah, and I always make this argument, and I say, well, they have a couple organic breweries, and we don't. So that's one variable that we're trying to add and try to get because our city makes amazing beer. We should be at the #1 spot.
Yeah.
But we actually go through two companies. There's a hop farm in Oregon that we get our Magnum, Pearl, Liberty, and Fuggle from. So the Fuggle hops we actually put into the Beast mod, and then the Magnum we use those hops to bitter the juice and a few other beers. But the yeast, the certified organic yeast from Imperial that's in Portland, that was the biggest one that we secured in Oregon.
That's awesome. So that's huge. That's like you said, like scaling with a company almost, kind of. Or
yeah, and I would say this. Their yeast strains are awesome, and I think that if there's a lot of other breweries here that have systems from Premier Stainless and they have that automation and take out that human error, some of these bigger breweries, there's a yeast strain out there called A38 Juice that is in the Mosaic Smash, it's in our Juice IPA, it's in the Berserker. It's a really unique yeast strain, and that company out there is scaling exponentially right now because there's a lot of demand for organic in the country.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool. Did you choose just out of curiosity? Did you choose San Diego for any reason? Just because it was a great brewery town?
It's funny you asked that. I grew up in Illinois, and then I came out here to become a SEAL. And everybody knows SEAL training is in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And then I met the love of my life out here, and she's a San Diego native. My wife Corey, who you met just earlier,
big
and
shout
then
out.
Little baby Sean, and I thought to myself, I love the craft beer culture here. If I'm going to make a transition, I think I'm going to stay here to do it. And honestly, a lot to learn from a lot of these great breweries out there. Even in just our immediate vicinity, there's so many great things happening.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
Speaking of great things happening, can you talk to us about the artist who's going to draw the Warrior labels and why that's integral to your brand as Protector?
Absolutely. What
the Warrior labels are for anyone who might not know, too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever come to Protector Brewery and you look to your left, you'll see these hand-drawn sketches on the wall. And part of our branding is, again, we want to match the aggressive perception of what beer is. Mm-hmm. And also we stand for something. We anchored very specifically on we are organic and we will stay organic. We will only brew organic beer. But we're also veterans as well. Yeah. One of our partners, his name's Mark, and he owns a company called Digital Cube Media. And he hand sketched all those drawings that you see on the wall. And so what we're going to do is once we start canning at the end of, I would say at the end of summer, early fall this year, we're gonna be canning at least 4 different styles of beer, and then you're gonna be able to see like this Viking warrior, this Spartan warrior, this gladiator, this barbarian who has a lion's head as a helmet, and you're gonna start to see some of these labels. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to pair the best beer to match that label. Because again, our focus is always on the quality of the beer, but those labels, oh my God, they match our brand because you got to stand for something. If you don't stand for anything in life, I mean, it almost doesn't make it worthwhile, right?
Yeah, again, that's another one of cliches exist for a reason.
Yep.
And that's true. And it's so cool that you found, such a calling, but it's so interesting that you found it almost like before you had to make that like transition. Like you kind of found it, luckily via the Baghdad special.
Oh my God, yes, the beer. And I'll tell you this, like, funny you bring that up because that beer that was the first beer I brewed. I brought it back for our 1-year anniversary, and when I tasted it again, it was a clean beer. But oh my God, there were so many contrasting hops and yeast and water profile. It was a fun beer.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it's just like on that one, the finesse, you can just see that your finesse got better where you like the contrasts weren't something that you'd necessarily do today.
Absolutely.
But that's so interesting. So like, I feel like it is a very nuanced craft beer making. I mean, it's super nuanced, and that's what getting those automated ones from the folks in Escondido is going to help.
I think it's, because we we're going to focus on, we're not going to bottle, we're going to specifically can beer, and we're going to offer it to restaurants, supermarkets, bars, restaurants, and the one beer that they all really want is that Pineapple Grenade Double Hazy IPA.
That's funny.
Yeah, every meeting that there's a couple of our, we brought an amazing team in here, Alana, Ashley, and Amanda, and they've been doing amazing things for us. And every time that they go out there and we do beer tastings or samplings or anything like that, customer feedback, they always love that beer. And so we got to make sure we make a can that represents that beer, like properly.
Yeah, that could be like. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Just to incorporate like the kind of like maybe like Polynesian thing from Hawaii or something. Like Polynesian warrior could be kind of interesting for that.
Oh, absolutely.
But just to go along with the canning, like because the canning is such a cool way of branding. So that being said, I mean we're running at about 45 minutes. It's been awesome. The one thing I do definitely want to give you time for is shout outs to anyone that you want to give shout outs to.
Yeah.
Shout outs to anything that you have coming up that you want to let the listeners and viewers know about.
Mm-hmm.
And just anything else that you want to share. And then, I have a few, finishing remarks and questions that I'll, shoot your way.
Absolutely. If anybody out there is listening, you guys want to learn more about Protector, you go to protectorbrewery.com. It's protectorbrewery.com.
I'll put it right across the screen right there.
I love it. And also, if you guys follow us, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and if you go to our website, you can sign up for a newsletter. The newsletter is, we'll periodically send out a newsletter here and there, but really, if you guys want to see new beer releases, go to Instagram, go to Facebook. You can check that out. And we're also going to post about events that are happening specifically very soon here. There's a few big events that we're part of. And they're all really linked to the Miralani Makers District. I want to give a good shout out to all the alcohol establishments that are in the vicinity of us. For those of you who don't know, specifically Lost Cause Meadery, they just won 5 medals when they went to one of the biggest mead competitions in the country.
Wow.
And they're right across the street. They're with Serpentine Cider. So you got mead, which is fermented honey. Then you got cider. And we also have sake. You have wine. You have hard spirits like, whiskey, gin, and then you also have a bunch of different breweries here doing a lot of different things. And then what's really great is there's a ginger beer place opening up, a gelato place opening up, a cookie and brownie place opening up, and I believe a pizza place opening up. And I also think that a kombucha place is going to open up in this district here in the near future. So,
and plus Mr. G's is here too.
Oh my God, the best burritos in town. Yeah. So if you guys ever want to come down, let us know. And specifically too, we have events going on all the time that donate back to specifically veterans, first responders, say like police officers, firefighters. We anchor in the Navy SEAL Foundation, but we also support every service: Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy, Army, etc.
Yeah, it's really awesome stuff. I mean, whether it's like the event that we went to at San Diego Sky Tours, or whether it's the event that you're going to be doing at Green Flash with the $5,000 grand prize, it's just pretty awesome what you're doing. And I guess that would be the last thing I'd like to ask before I want to ask you your advice on turning people's passion into paychecks. I want to ask you, how we've covered it in spades, but kind of just to summarize, how important is being a veteran to you? How much does that influence you, not only as a father, husband, human being, brewmaker, all the above?
I would say if you're going to turn your passion into a paycheck, there's so many avenues that you can go down.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of funny. I had a very unique opportunity when I was going through business school at Rady. We actually were able to go out to Omaha, Nebraska, and as a school, there was about 10 or 20 of us. We were able to ask Warren Buffett himself a couple questions related to his success or anything we wanted to ask.
Wow.
And one of the questions that I asked was, I said, what's the secret to your success? And his answer was, when you believe in people, you're always going to be disappointed. And I was like, oh, okay. That's not starting off the way I thought it would. And then he said, but you have to work with people and believe in people to be successful. So I think this is a very, and I thought back to the SEAL teams, the only reason why, I mean, of all military units out there, SEAL team, there's not too many units out there called team. And if you're ever going to do anything, if you're ever going to be successful, and trust me, I'm still learning this process, and I don't consider us successful yet. Mm-hmm. We're still striving to that. But working with people, if you don't know what your passion is, work with the best people that you know.
Yep. And
work with people that lift you up and inspire you and help you. And, look at their qualities, but be authentic. Don't waste time trying to get even. Just spend most of your time trying to get ahead towards something worthwhile to make a drastic impact for everybody.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a lot of it's, reactionary in terms of like, bad stuff, great stuff, and in between stuff is going to happen to everyone. But, the reactions, who you surround yourself with, that stuff isn't within your control. So
it is. And, your emotional response to adversity really tests your character and really shows through your character. When things go bad, never think the current situation, think what it could be. And oftentimes you'll put in that extra effort and just change it. Then you'll look back and say, why did I worry so much?
Yeah, because then when things are good, you can look back on that and say, oh, things used to be bad. Now they feel even better because I can compare it to that.
Yeah, and put that relentless work effort into anything that you do. And even if you don't know the answers, just keep trying, keep striving, and then when you have a really good team around you and you give them the autonomy to make decisions and also make suggestions, my God, things happen in really good ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the advice. I appreciate you sharing all those, really deep stories. If there's anything else you want to, any interesting thing that's going on lately? I mean, it's just totally open-ended right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have events going on probably every single week.
Uh-huh.
But the big thing that we're doing is we're tripling, nearly quadrupling our capacity at our brewery, and we just installed a crowler machine. And we just installed new merchandise on our website that is in alignment with with our brand and everything.
Yep.
So if you check out our website, protectyourbrewery.com, you can also order merchandise if you like. But the most exciting thing here is we're going to be scaling very, very large, but making we're going to be servicing a lot of veteran organizations like the American Legion, but we're also going to be servicing a lot of organic restaurants and organic supermarkets that they need us as much as we need them.
Oh, that's a brilliant avenue. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think to ask about that. That's inherently probably something that you identified as a weakness in the beer market. And yeah, okay, that's very interesting.
I would say this: if you ever went to the California Department of Public Health's website, and what's great about organic, you can see what the organic growth trends are in the state, and they actually outpace the growth of craft beer. And
wow,
people are becoming more aware. They know the value of organic, and they vote with their dollars. And big companies like Costco, I mean, their number one objective is to go towards organic. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, folks. Hey, cheers, Sean. I appreciate your time.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you heard it here first, or maybe not here first, but Protector Brewery in Miralani, San Diego, California. We had a great talk with Sean, the owner, operator, founder. You've listened to another episode of the Oddcast where we talk about people turning their passion into profession and subsequently that passion into paychecks. Thank you, Sean. You want to sign us out?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And love having you guys on, and glad that we could also drink beer while we did this.
Yeah, that's always a win for everyone. Cheers.
Cheers, Mike. Thanks.
Let's get a little weird. Let's get a little odd. Those sounds you like to hear. We got it going on. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast. It's the Oddcast.